It'll be great. It'll be fantastic. You see the way this is looking? Look, nice. I can't tell you how much that gold costs. A lot of money. There's nothing like gold, and there's nothing like solid gold. But this beautiful office needed it. It had to be representative. When we took it over, it was dirty, not clean. I immediately changed the chair and had this beautiful desk renovated, brought out by the White House. People that do this, they did a great job. We sent it out. We have a craftsman who's great. But this was not appropriate for the Oval Office when I took over. And now you look at all those paintings you're allowed to turn back. All of these are great presidents, and they were all in the vaults. They were in vaults for some cases much more than 100 years. And now they're proudly hanging on the Oval Office walls. And I can't imagine anybody changing it. But they were buried in vaults for over 100 years, many of them. So it's very exciting. People come in, they really love it. They love what we're doing here. They love what we're doing in D.C., and they love what we're doing, most importantly, in the country and the world.
Okay, so picture this. You're Donald Trump. You're sitting in the Oval Office, dealing with all the usual chaos that comes with being president. And then your own wife decides to launch a $1 billion lawsuit that turns into a media circus. Not just any lawsuit either. We're talking about a legal battle that connects her name to Jeffrey Epstein, forces her into a countersuit, and makes you look absolutely ridiculous on the national stage. Yeah, that's where we are right now. This isn't some conspiracy theory or random Twitter drama. This is real. Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, is in the middle of a legal war with author Michael Wolff, and it's not going well for her. Or for Trump. Actually, it's basically a disaster for both of them. Here's what happened. Michael Wolff, you know, the guy who wrote those tell-all books about Trump's White House, he published some claims about Melania. Claims that tied her to Jeffrey Epstein's private world. Now, I don't need to tell you how toxic that name is. Epstein is basically political poison. So when Wolff dropped those allegations, Melania's team freaked out. And what did they do? They threatened him with the $1 billion defamation lawsuit. $1 billion. Come on. That's not a normal legal response. That's a threat designed to intimidate someone into silence. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
No, I think to really mess with him, just name it the Barack Obama ballroom, and I think that will take care of half the problem.
So don't tear it down. Don't
more importantly, this is a distraction. First of all, he should not have done that. It's the people's house. Number two, where is the president? He's focusing on the ballroom. He's focused on everything, but he's not focused on what's happening right now. Inflation's still high. People can't buy what they need to buy. Energy's still high. We have tariff wars that are being caused because he feels icky and feels bad about someone talking bad about him in a commercial. And inflation's about to double for 24 million Americans, and that's what he cares about.
In addition to the ballroom and the Rose Garden patio, is the president looking at any other renovations or significant kind of projects here at the White House?
Not to my knowledge, no. But he's a builder at heart, clearly. And so his heart and his mind is always churning about how to improve things here on the White House grounds. But at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority.
And Michael Wolff, well, he didn't back down. Instead, he turned around and sued Melania right back. He filed a countersuit, accusing her of trying to suppress free speech with what's called a SLAPP lawsuit. That's strategic lawsuit against public participation. Basically, it's when rich, powerful people use the legal system to bully journalists and critics into shutting up. Can you believe this? The First Lady is now being accused of attacking the First Amendment. And here's the thing that makes this so much worse for Trump. This isn't happening in some private courtroom where they can keep it quiet. This is all playing out in public. Every filing, every legal argument, every embarrassing detail is all out there for everyone to see. The media is covering it like crazy. Social media is going nuts. And Trump? He's stuck watching his wife create a scandal that makes his administration look even more chaotic than usual. This is wild. Because think about the timing here. We're in October 2025. Trump's second term is already controversial enough without adding a First Lady scandal to the mix. He's dealing with political opponents, media criticism, all the normal stuff. And now he's got to explain why his wife is in a legal battle over Jeffrey Epstein allegations. Yeah, right. Good luck spinning that one. But here's what really gets me. This isn't just about some author and some claims. This is about what it represents. Melania's legal threat, her $1 billion lawsuit. It looks desperate. It looks like she's trying to hide something. And when Michael Wolff countersued and invoked anti-SLAPP laws, he basically turned the whole thing around. Now, instead of Wolff being on defense, Melania is the one who looks like she's abusing the legal system. And Trump, he looks humiliated because his own wife created this mess. She didn't have to threaten $1 billion lawsuit. She could have ignored it, issued a simple denial, done literally anything else. But no, she went nuclear, and now it's blowing up in her face. This is the kind of story that opponents and critics dream about. It's got everything: legal drama, Epstein connections, a sitting president's spouse in a public battle, accusations of censorship, and attacks on free speech. It's a perfect storm of controversy. And the best part, or worst part, depending on how you look at it, this is just getting started. The lawsuit is active right now. More details are going to come out, more legal filings, more media coverage, more embarrassment for the Trump family. So yeah, when I say Trump got humiliated by his own wife's legal disaster, I'm not exaggerating. This is a betrayal in the sense that Melania's actions, whether she meant to or not, are damaging Trump's public image at a critical time. She created a scandal that connects the Trump name to Epstein. She made herself look like she's attacking free speech, and she did it all in the most public way possible. Are you kidding me? This is the First Lady we're talking about, and she just handed Trump's opponents the perfect ammunition. Let's break down exactly what's happening here, why it matters, and what this means for Trump's presidency going forward. Because trust me, this story is way bigger than it looks on the surface. Alright, so let's dig into the actual details here, because this situation is more complicated than just First Lady sues author. There's layers to this thing, and the more you look at it, the worse it gets for Trump. First, let's talk about Michael Wolff. This guy has been a thorn in Trump's side for years. He wrote Fire and Fury back in Trump's first term, that book that claimed all sorts of chaotic stuff was happening inside the White House. Trump hated it, called it fake news, the usual response. But the book sold millions of copies and became this huge cultural moment. So Wolff has a history of writing things that make Trump look bad, and Trump has a history of attacking him for it. That's the context here. Now fast forward to 2025. Wolff publishes new claims, and this time they're about Melania. He alleges connections between her and Jeffrey Epstein's world. Now I want to be clear, Wolff's specific claims and evidence aren't fully public yet because of the legal battle. But whatever he wrote, it was enough to make Melania's legal team go absolutely ballistic. They sent him a letter threatening a $1 billion defamation suit. That's not a typo. 1 billion with a B. That's an insane amount of money. It's clearly not about actually winning $1 billion. It's about scaring Wolff into retracting his claims or scaring publishers into not touching his work. But here's where Melania's team made a huge mistake. They underestimated Michael Wolff. Instead of backing down, Wolff filed his own lawsuit in October 2025. And in that lawsuit, he didn't just defend himself, he went on offense. He accused Melania of filing a SLAPP suit designed to silence him and suppress media reporting. He invoked anti-SLAPP laws, which are specifically designed to protect journalists and writers from exactly this kind of legal intimidation. Think about what that means. Wolff is now arguing in court that the First Lady of the United States is trying to violate his First Amendment rights. He's framing this as a free speech issue, and that's a really bad look for Melania. Because here's the thing. Even if Wolff's claims about her are questionable or exaggerated, the way she responded makes it look like she's got something to hide. If someone publishes false claims about you, yeah, you can sue for defamation. That's totally normal. But threatening $1 billion and trying to intimidate them into silence, that looks desperate. That looks like you're more interested in censorship than justice. And the media, they're eating this up. Because now the story isn't just about whatever Wolff claimed. The story is about whether the First Lady is trying to suppress free speech. That's a way bigger and more damaging narrative. So let's talk about the Epstein angle, because come on, that's the really toxic part of this. Jeffrey Epstein is one of the most notorious names in modern American scandal. The guy was connected to powerful people all over the world. When he got arrested and then died in jail, it became this massive conspiracy theory factory. Everyone started wondering who else was involved in his world. And now Michael Wolff is claiming some kind of connection to Melania. We don't know exactly what he alleged, because the legal battle is keeping a lot of it under wraps. But just the association, just having the Epstein name anywhere near the First Lady, that's political poison. Trump already had to deal with his own past connections to Epstein. There are photos of them together at parties in the 90s and early 2000s. Trump's on record saying Epstein was a terrific guy before all the criminal stuff came out. So the Trump name is already uncomfortably close to that scandal. And now his wife is in a legal battle that's bringing Epstein back into the headlines with the Trump family name attached. Can you believe this? Trump probably thought he'd put some distance between himself and that whole mess, and then his own wife drags it back into the spotlight. This is wild. But it gets even more interesting when you look at the political timing. We're in October 2025. Trump's second term has been, let's just say, controversial. He's facing criticism from all sides. Democrats obviously hate him, but even some Republicans are getting tired of the constant drama. His approval ratings have been all over the place. And into this environment drops a First Lady scandal involving Epstein allegations and free speech attacks. His opponents are absolutely loving this. They're using it to paint a picture of a chaotic, scandal-ridden administration where even Trump's own family is creating problems. The narrative writes itself, right? Trump can't even keep his own household drama free. How's he supposed to run the country? Now Melania's legal team is defending her. They're saying Wolf's claims are false and defamatory. They're arguing she has every right to protect her reputation. And yeah, on paper, that sounds reasonable. If someone publishes false information about you, you should be able to sue them. But the problem is the execution, the billion-dollar threat, the aggressive legal tactics, the fact that it's turning into this massive public spectacle. All of that undermines the "we're just defending her reputation" argument. It makes it look like there's more going on. And here's something else that's important. This is rare, like really rare. Sitting first ladies don't usually get into public legal battles like this. They might sue someone quietly or have their lawyers handle things behind the scenes. But a full-blown lawsuit with countersuits and media coverage and accusations of attacking free speech, that's almost unprecedented. Michelle Obama never did this. Laura Bush never did this. Hillary Clinton, well, she was a lightning rod for controversy, but even she didn't get into legal battles quite like this as First Lady. Melania is breaking new ground here, and not in a good way. So what does this tell us? It tells us that something about Wolf's claims really got under her skin. It tells us she felt threatened enough to respond with maximum legal force, and it tells us she either didn't think through the consequences or she didn't care about the political damage this would cause. Either way, Trump's stuck dealing with it. He can't exactly come out and criticize his own wife publicly, but he also can't be thrilled about this situation. It's creating exactly the kind of media circus that makes his administration look incompetent and scandal-plagued. And the betrayal angle? Look, I'm not saying Melania intentionally betrayed Trump, but the effect is the same. Her actions, her legal decisions, they're damaging him politically. They're giving his opponents ammunition. They're creating negative headlines at a time when he really doesn't need more controversy. Whether she meant to or not, she's making things worse for him. And in politics, intent doesn't really matter. Results matter. And the result here is that Trump looks humiliated while his wife fights a public legal battle that makes his whole family look bad. This is the kind of story that sticks around. It's not going to just disappear. As long as the lawsuit is active, there will be new filings, new hearings, new media coverage. This is going to drag on. And every time it comes up, it's going to remind people of the chaos surrounding Trump's presidency. Let me tell you something else that's crazy about this whole situation. The legal strategy here is bizarre. When you're a public figure dealing with a controversial book or article, you have options. You can issue a statement calling it false. You can have your lawyer send a cease and desist. You can write an op-ed defending yourself. You can even just ignore it and let the story die naturally. But threatening $1 billion lawsuit? That's the nuclear option. And it only makes sense if you're absolutely certain you can win and you want to send a message to other potential critics. But Melania's team seems to have miscalculated badly. They turned a story that might have gotten some attention into a massive scandal that's dominating headlines. And here's the kicker. By going after Wolf so aggressively, they've actually given his claims more credibility in a lot of people's eyes. The thinking goes, if there was nothing to the claims, why respond so dramatically? Why threaten such an enormous lawsuit? Why not just deny it and move on? It's the Streisand effect on steroids. You try to suppress something and end up making it way bigger than it would have been otherwise. Okay, so let's break this down into the key points because there's a lot happening here and it's easy to lose track of why this actually matters. Point number 1, this lawsuit is about way more than just Melania versus Michael Wolff. It's become a proxy battle over free speech, media criticism, and how powerful people use the legal system to silence journalists. Wolff is arguing that Melania is trying to suppress reporting and intimidate critics, and by framing it that way, he's turned this into a First Amendment issue. That means every free speech advocate, every media organization, every journalist, they're all paying attention to this case now, and here's why that's bad for Melania and Trump. The narrative has shifted. It's no longer did Wolff tell the truth about Melania. The question now is the First Lady trying to censor the media? That's a way harder question to answer in a way that makes her look good. Even if she wins the legal battle, and that's a big if, she's already lost the PR battle. She looks like she's attacking freedom of the press. Think about the optics here. Trump has spent years calling the media fake news and attacking journalists. He's accused major news outlets of lying about him. He's tried to delegitimize critical coverage at every turn. And now his wife is in court, being accused of trying to silence a writer with legal threats. It's like, can you believe this? It confirms every criticism that Trump's opponents have been making about his attitude toward the press. It makes it look like the Trump family genuinely doesn't respect free speech when that speech is critical of them. Point number 2. The Epstein connection is absolutely devastating from a political standpoint. Even if Wolf's specific claims turn out to be exaggerated or unfair, just having that name associated with the First Lady is a disaster. Epstein represents everything toxic in American politics right now. Sex trafficking, abuse of power, connections to the rich and famous, conspiracy theories about who else was involved. Trump already had uncomfortable associations with Epstein from decades ago. Photos, quotes, social connections. He's tried to distance himself by saying he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago and barely knew the guy. But the association is still there. And now there's a legal case that's putting Epstein's name right next to Melania's in headlines across the country. Every article about this lawsuit mentions Epstein. Every news segment brings up those allegations. Trump can't escape it. His own wife has made sure the Epstein scandal is attached to their family all over again. This is wild. Because like Melania had to know this would happen. When you threaten $1 billion lawsuit over Epstein-related claims, you're guaranteeing that every media outlet is going to cover it. You're guaranteeing that the Epstein name is going to be in the headlines. Did she really think this would stay quiet? Did she think Wolf would just back down and it would go away? Come on, that's not how this works. And now Trump's paying the price for her miscalculation. Point number 3, this is happening at literally the worst possible time for Trump politically. His second term is already controversial. He's facing opposition from Democrats who never accepted him as legitimate president. He's dealing with policy battles, international crises, all the normal stuff. His approval ratings aren't great. And then his wife creates a massive scandal that dominates news cycles for weeks. She hands his opponents the perfect story to use against them. She gives media outlets a reason to talk about Trump family drama and Epstein and free speech suppression all at once. The timing couldn't be worse, and it's self-inflicted. Nobody forced Melania to threaten this lawsuit. Nobody made her respond to Wolf's claims with maximum legal aggression. She chose to do this, and the consequences are falling on Trump's administration. So here's what this means going forward. First, the lawsuit is going to continue. We're going to see more legal filings, more hearings, probably more embarrassing details coming out. Every time there's a development, it's going to generate new headlines. This story has legs. It's going to keep running. Second, Trump's opponents are going to milk this for everything it's worth. They're already using it to attack him. They're pointing to it as evidence of corruption, chaos, and disrespect for constitutional rights. Political speeches are going to reference this. It's become ammunition that Trump can't easily defend against. Third, this damages Trump's relationship with his base to some degree. Now, his hardcore supporters aren't going to abandon him over this, but it creates doubt, it creates questions. Some people who are on the fence about Trump might look at this situation and think, wow, even his own family is creating scandals. It chips away at his image of strength and control. And fourth, and this is important, this affects how other people in politics and media think about challenging the Trumps. If Michael Wolff can successfully fight back against $1 billion legal threat from the First Lady, that sends a message. It tells other journalists and authors that they don't have to be intimidated. It shows that anti-SLAPP laws can protect them. It might actually encourage more critical coverage and more aggressive reporting on Trump and his family. So Melania's attempt to silence Wolf might end up doing the exact opposite. It might embolden critics instead of scaring them away. Let's talk about what happens next. The legal case is going to play out over months, probably. Wolf's anti-SLAPP motion is going to be decided by a judge. If he wins that motion, Melania's lawsuit could get thrown out, and she might even have to pay his legal fees. If he loses, then we're heading toward a full trial where both sides present evidence and witnesses. Either way, this is going to be in the news for a long time, and every development is going to be another embarrassing moment for Trump. The political consequences are harder to predict. Trump's approval ratings might take a hit, his opponents might gain ground, or, and this is also possible, the story might eventually fade as other news takes over. Trump's presidency is chaotic enough that new scandals tend to push old ones out of the headlines pretty quickly. But here's the thing. Even if the immediate media attention dies down, the damage is done. The narrative is established. Melania created a scandal that connected her to Epstein, made her look like she's attacking free speech, and humiliated Trump in the process. That's going to be part of the Trump legacy now. It's going to be in the history books. So yeah, When we talk about Trump being humiliated by his wife's legal battle, it's not hyperbole. This is a genuine political disaster that Melania created through her own decisions, and Trump has to live with the consequences. The wild part is, this could have been avoided. If Melania had just ignored Wolf's claims, or issued a simple statement denying them, this wouldn't be the massive story it is now. But she chose confrontation. She chose the billion-dollar threat. She chose to make this public and dramatic. And now Trump's dealing with the fallout. Let me add something else here, because I think it's important to understand the broader context. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Trump's second term has been marked by a lot of family-related controversies. There have been questions about conflicts of interest. There have been stories about business dealings. There have been personnel changes and internal White House drama. And now we add a First Lady legal scandal to that list. It's part of a pattern. It reinforces the perception that the Trump White House is chaotic, that the family is a source of problems rather than solutions, and that basic governance is taking a backseat to personal drama. That perception matters. It affects how foreign leaders view Trump. It affects how Congress works with him. It affects how voters think about his presidency. And every new scandal, every new controversy makes it harder for Trump to accomplish his policy goals or build political support. Melania's lawsuit isn't just an isolated incident. It's another data point in a larger narrative about Trump's presidency, and that narrative is not favorable. Now let's talk about the legal specifics for a second, because this is actually fascinating. Anti-SLAPP laws exist in many states, specifically to protect people from being sued just for exercising their First Amendment rights. The idea is that rich or powerful people shouldn't be able to use the legal system to intimidate critics into silence. When someone files an anti-SLAPP motion, they're essentially saying this lawsuit is designed to shut me up, and that's not allowed. If the judge agrees, the lawsuit gets dismissed early, and the person who filed the lawsuit might have to pay the defendant's legal fees. So Michael Wolff is betting that a judge will see Melania's billion-dollar threat as exactly this kind of intimidation tactic. And if he's right, if the judge agrees with him, then Melania doesn't just lose the case, she has to pay Wolff's lawyers. That would be a massive embarrassment and a huge victory for press freedom advocates. But even if Wolff loses the anti-SLAPP motion and the case continues, he's already won in the court of public opinion. He's positioned himself as the underdog fighting for free speech against a powerful First Lady. He's made Melania look like the aggressor. He's kept the story in the news for weeks. Are you kidding me? This is a masterclass in how to fight back against legal intimidation. Wolff has turned Melania's attack into his own PR victory. That's the story. That's where we are. A First Lady in a legal war with an author. Accusations of censorship. Epstein's name back in headlines with the Trump family. And a president who looks humiliated by the whole mess. Political opponents having a field day. Media coverage that shows no signs of stopping. Legal battles that could drag on for months. And all of it completely avoidable if Melania had just handled this differently. This is 2025 politics, and it's only going to get weirder from here. The Trump administration is dealing with yet another self-inflicted wound. Another scandal that didn't need to happen. Another embarrassment that makes governing harder. And the craziest part, we're probably going to see more developments in this story in the coming weeks. More legal filings, more statements from both sides, more media analysis, more political fallout. This isn't over, not even close.